All right, welcome to. Is this episode 32 or 33?
33.
33.
All right,
I thought it was
June,
34.
June 4th. I don't think it's 34. Let me look into that.
No,
It's
fuck.
June 4th. We're greeted by the great Dan Toler today.
Yes.
Dan, say hi.
I was bowing down to you guys. Hey, everybody.
No, this is 32. Okay, yeah, this is 32. So, let's start with some good news. Is Dan just on the first? We posted Dan's first episode on the Patreon, patreon.com/thesaladtossers. It's only $1. I listened to it. I thought it was pretty crazy. It was about an Olympic marathon in 1904. That shit was pretty fucking nuts.
Nice. Good memory. Dude, I could not believe, okay, so this episode literally started for me seeing, like, a Facebook post, like, one of those memes where it's, like, a historical picture and, like, it's, like, a paragraph that's badly spelled and, like, you're kind of questioning whether the story is actually true. So I saw this, and I'm like, okay, I actually have to look into this. And dude, like Smithsonian Magazine, the Charles C.J. Whatever his name was, the doctor who wrote the book I was reading. Like, there are so many sources for this Olympics where they just, like, literally ran a human experiment on these athletes and dehydrated them.
Holy shit.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the stuff about, like, the rat poison that they used essentially as, like, altering, like, athletic drugs, kind of like steroids almost.
Yeah, hey,
shit
it
was
raises
crazy.
his heart rate. Give it to him.
Yeah, that shit was fucking crazy. Yeah, so
Yeah.
basically,
Like, if
long
you
story
are not a
short,
subscriber of
Yeah.
the Salad Tossers Patreon,
You're missing
definitely subscribe. Number one, to hear my shit. And number two, because these guys are some great guys. And like, I know you have another guy. I can never remember his name,
His
and he
name's
does stuff on the
Montel.
Patreon.
His name's Montel. He does a
Right
debate
on.
show, which he has been getting better every episode. Most recent episode, he actually kind of like hooked these two people up, and it was pretty interesting. It was an interesting listen for sure. There's more than just debate to enjoy there.
So, like, does he debate other people, or does he, like, host a debate
No,
and moderate
he's
to
the
other
host.
people?
He's the host, and I couldn't tell you how he finds these people. Every episode, he has people who have extreme amounts of accolades in the debate world. And I don't know where he finds these people. I think he just uses Reddit. But, like, the intro will always be, like, this is blah, blah, blah. He debated in high school and college and, like, minored in, like, some debating-related topic. And he's in a league on Saturdays. And you're just like, what the... Like, where did you find this kid?
Dude, you would be amazed. Maybe you wouldn't. Like, I know we found each other on Reddit, but
Yeah.
like, how many people are just like straight up willing to do an interview? Like, I was looking at doing an interview show and it never happened. But like, I just called up this girl I knew in college, and like, we hadn't spoken in literally 10 years. And I was like, hey, I'm trying to interview successful people, and you were always one of those people who's like type A personality, and like, I could just tell from knowing you in college you're successful. And like, sure enough, like, she's like a successful investment banker and stuff and knows all these people. So like, she's like, oh, I can hook you up with the CEO of this company, and this girl I know runs this nonprofit for saving the whales, and like, just this laundry list of people. Like, dude, I'm like a guy who used to work at Home Depot and has made no use of his college degree. And here I am, just like this laundry list of like CEOs and nonprofit execs and stuff, just because like people love to talk about themselves.
Yeah. I mean, we feel that way a lot. I mean, we started... No, we weren't in high school when we started, I don't think. We had just graduated. But we're a bunch of 18-year-olds. I mean, these two are in college, but when we started, I was an unemployed 18-year-old who had moved out of my parents' house, just kind of vagabonding it. And somehow we got Who's Right on here, for example, and they make like $2,500 a month on Patreon. It's crazy. The podcast like landscape everybody's just so willing and polite. It's not like other industries like TVs or movies where it's really competitive. I mean, it is very competitive because there's so many people, but it's not like it's competitive in the sense where there are rivalries. Everybody is very willing to like help each other out, and I really like that about podcasting.
It takes like an hour out of their day, like out of the week.
Yeah,
that means nothing. It's just an hour where they talk.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people like our format of the show because it's not there's not a lot of pressure to it. You don't have to know anything. You just kind of come here and shoot the shit, and that's why we've gotten a couple new listeners, and some are people I know personally, and they've been telling me that that's what they really like about the show is the fact that it's very casual and it's just listening to a couple guys shoot the shit.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I've got nothing but from support from the community, small podcasts, large ones. Like, I think you're. Could it just be that, like, unless you're Joe Rogan or like Barack Obama or Bruce Springsteen, like, you probably started your podcast with nothing, and like you just get it. Yeah. You're like, oh, these dudes are sitting around in their dorm room and they're chatting and like, hey, that's what I used to do and I'm going to help them out.
I think the thing about podcast is people aren't as exclusive as they are with other things. Like, when you think of sports, you have your team. When you think of like music, even though most people listen to a lot of artists, there's always like who is the best artist arguments. When it comes to podcasts, yeah, there are greater and lesser podcasts, but most people listen to a decently wide range, and you don't really have to compete for their time. You just have to compete to be good enough for them to give you a listen. So that's why I think it doesn't cause competing between other podcasts. It just makes you want to be your best selves.
Yeah.
And back to the point that we found each other on Reddit. I think Reddit gets a lot of shit because of some of the cringy stuff that happens on Reddit, but Reddit is like a really cool place, honestly. It's like a really good resource.
Oh, for everything, man. For everything. I don't know how many games I'm on the subreddit for, and like 5 years later, it's like, hey, do you remember the original Red Dead Redemption? Well, here's this meme somebody made.
Yeah, Reddit it's very interesting. I think the only bad experience we've ever had with someone who wanted to be a guest on Reddit is one time. We've talked about it before, but one time this chick wanted all of us to come on her show. I think she did a show about sexual encounters, something like that. And so she wanted us all to come on the show, and I was like, we want to invite you on our show, obviously. And so she was like, okay, shoot me a link, I'll listen. And in the episode she listened to, I was telling a story about when I dropped my phone in the toilet, and I said, I called myself gay for putting toilet seat on the paper, or like toilet paper down on the toilet seat.
Oh,
and she was like
sensitive about that.
She was like, my show is all about being positive with your sexual orientation, and I don't think I could work with people who think it's okay to use gay in a derogatory way and all this. It was pretty funny.
To be fair, I think it's good that she did that because somebody would have said that's so fucking gay or some shit like that. It was like, it's super gay.
It's good that she said that.
The whole show would have been busted.
It's good that she said that.
Just turns into a political debate.
Because if she came on and we didn't know that, it would have been an interesting show.
It would have been a very interesting show. It probably would have been. Oh god, she would have been heated. I can imagine she's one of those people that just takes it way too far. Like, okay. You know, me, I'd be like, if I didn't like it, I'd be like, okay, whatever. She'd probably take it to the next level and try to argue all of us. And then I'd call her gay for trying to argue us. And then, like, there's no way around that one.
Oh no, I got a friend. I shouldn't say a friend. I haven't talked to her since we were in elementary school. But like one of those friends who you haven't talked to in decades, but they're on Facebook. And she has her OnlyFans. Oh, okay, well, we haven't talked in 25 years.
Whoa! Let me get the link. I gotta check her out.
You know what? I will send it in private here. But these, anyway, it's really weird to me because obviously I'm. Like the last time the last time I saw her, we were in like
Oh, children.
Like she literally was prepubescent the last time I saw her. And like we met up on Facebook and she's like, "Oh, check out my here, send it in the text channel."
Oh, I gotta check this
You know,
out. How much it costs?
That actually reminds me of something. Have you guys seen? Oh my God, Dan just fucking dipped.
Nope, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys.
Have you guys seen? It was on Snapchat a while ago. She's actually a decent looking girl, but she likes to like pretend she's a dog, and her boyfriend like walks around with a leash on her and shit. Have you guys seen that before? Okay.
I'm fascinated though. I'm not saying
here's the really fascinating part. I was talking about it with a couple guys from work, and they were like, "Yeah, she has an OnlyFans," and I was like, "What?" Like, that's very interesting. And so now my question is, do you think she does dog-related stuff on her OnlyFans, or do you think she uses the dog-related stuff to blow up her image so that people are like, I have to sub to her OnlyFans to see what's up, and then they sub and realize it's just a normal chick who is just pretending to be a dog so she would blow up? Or do you really think that this chick is that crazy that she does like dog-related porn things for her OnlyFans?
So wait, when you say dog, like she's using like the Instagram filter, that's her for like
Dan,
she has a dog with her, like
Dan,
she's implying.
Her and her boyfriend, when they go out, she walks around on all fours. She wears a collar and a leash that her boyfriend holds.
Okay. Oh, so it's like some BSDM shit. Like,
Billy, what are your paintings?
What?
Yeah,
your poster just fell down like live.
Fuck. Shit.
Dan, that's what I think is. I think it's just like some chick who likes being humiliated. But also, I'm starting to become very curious because her OnlyFans is like $20 a month or something. So I'm starting to become very curious on whether her OnlyFans is actually just like a normal one, and she just did all the dog shit to get a lot of traction.
Maybe.
Dude, like you never know. Like, I'm a freelance writer. Okay, like that's like my trade right now. And I did some side work for a dude doing porn reviews.
That's awesome.
Dude, people did not believe it when I was like, yeah, I'm getting paid this week to review like these 15 porn sites.
That's so awesome.
But, God, the stuff you would see, like I did, like, are you familiar with, oh no, I'm gonna screw it up. It's not Rule 42. It's what is it? Rule 40.
Oh, yeah.
Rule 34. Thank you. Like,
very big.
I have seen some crazy furry shit. I have seen I assume we can be explicit on this cast.
Of course,
okay, I have seen Bowser railing Princess Peach from behind. While a little turtle is watching and jacking himself off.
Jesus, talking about a cuckold.
Like, some really weird shit is out there, and like people pay money, like serious money on Patreon sometimes.
Yeah.
For people to make this like wild, like cartoon and video game porn.
That's
dude.
like
it's insane.
There are people that you can pay where if you send them a few pictures of a girl, they'll do a deep fake for you. You guys know what a deep fake is? So they'll do a deep fake for you. So like genuinely there are like high school kids and college kids, or just random dudes who will get pictures off some girl's Instagram that they like have a crush on, and they'll pay a guy like $50-$100 to turn a porn into a porn of that girl through deep fake. It's nuts.
Dude, like I don't know if that's even legal.
Well, that's the thing is there's no jurisdiction on that stuff yet, and at some point a fucking video is gonna come out and ruin somebody's life, and they're gonna be like, wait, but that was a deep fake, and have no way to really prove it. Have you seen? I think we talked about this a couple episodes ago.
There's Tom Cruise
guy,
TikTok?
Yeah, there's this guy on TikTok who does it's a Tom Cruise deep fake, but it's really like ridiculously good. The only reason you know is because he's admitted it, because it literally is that realistic. It's not porn, it's just like him talking, but it's like an extremely good deep fake.
Well, I saw one like somebody did an Obama one. Like Obama's like, anybody who votes for Trump is dumb as shit. Like,
Yeah,
put it up.
it's really
Like, it's
easy with
crazy.
public figures like that because you have so much footage of them from almost every angle saying so many different sentences. You can get almost any phrase out of them. So the more like public you are out there, the more high risk you can. And so the worry is at some point terrorists are gonna start using the technology to literally start wars. Like they'll deepfake a video of President Biden saying, we're going to bomb Iran or some shit. We're going to bomb Russia or China and then send it to China, and China will think it's real because they won't be able to tell, and then fucking literally start a war. So it's pretty dangerous technology. It's dangerous enough as porn technology because you can ruin someone's life with porn. But
I mean, look at that. What was that politician, Anthony Weiner? Ironically, like the dude like literally lost his Congress seat because he legit got caught fucking around on his wife and then sexting his stripper girlfriend when he was next to his kids and stuff. Like,
Jesus, read the room,
damn.
bud.
Can I bring up a topic real quick? Just really quickly.
Do you want to talk about your sword first?
No,
yeah.
I'm looking at this girl's OnlyFans. I
the-
bought it.
You bought it?
Wait, you bought
You
it?
bought it?
No,
I was gonna say, I can definitely ask her to be on my show. Like, yo, I hooked you up.
Before I saw pictures of her, I had to look at the Instagram. Like before, I was like, I'll consider buying it for the podcast. It might be funny. I just didn't even want to look at this. Like,
What? What's her
terrible.
Instagram look like?
It's absolutely
is she
horrible.
ugly? What are you saying?
She's too old to be doing what she's doing, man. I'm 35 and she's my age.
No, Jan, it's not. That doesn't mean she's too old. That just means she's ugly. There's some
Not
very
attractive.
attractive old ladies, man.
Well, yes, but some women age like wine and some age like vinegar, and she's aged like cheap ass Boone's Farm into lousy vinegar. Okay, like there's like Bette Midler looked fucking hot. Like I would have boned her at 60. But
maybe if this girl wasn't anorexic, I think I'd buy it. But
Wait, if she was or wasn't?
wasn't.
Oh, now that's just sad because that means she's 35.
Yeah.
She's on OnlyFans, so she's obviously looking for positive male attention, and she's anorexic. So that just sounds like a very damaged person. This has become
what's
this
weird
is
is she's
funny to sad.
Well, dude, she's not like, well, she's probably damaged. I'm pretty sure her dad sexually abused her, but like,
in my ass.
she's got a fiance, and they're both, what is it? Oh, not poly. I lose track of all this new shit. Yes, polyamorous. Thank you.
Oh.
Yes, they can like get with whoever. So like,
Apparently,
she's not lacking for the D.
Apparently, one of Will Smith's daughter, I think it was Willow Smith, said that she's polyamorous, but she wants like one man and one woman in the relationship.
Wow, good luck to some dude getting in on that.
That's what I'm saying. These dudes are they're doing it right, man. I'm thinking, I'll fucking be poly, bro. They're just studs. And then it's like, oh, they all love each other equally. It's not about. And it's like, yeah, sure, man. But one guy gets to bang two chicks, so whatever you guys say, whatever you guys fucking say.
Right, and if I'm not at home, guess what I think about them doing? Like, come on, win-win.
Yeah. It sounds like a fucking baller set. You know, the worst part is, Billy, your poster fell again.
I fucking see it, bro. Oh my god.
I like how you have your Boy Scout arrow hanging up. I have mine in my old bedroom. The worst part about that whole poly shit.
I don't. That's an airborne emblem. Or do you, Billy?
No.
Is that you?
Billy has one. Yeah, they give you an arrow when you
I'm
graduate.
pointing at it as if the audience can see where I'm
Looking
pointing.
at my arrow right now. I can't. My headphones don't reach that far, but.
Now you say an arrow when you graduate. Like I was in the Boy Scouts and I didn't
it's
get
when
one.
you
What is that?
graduate
Like
from Cub
Eagle
Scouts to
Scout?
Boy Scouts.
That's the Boy Scouts. I never got Eagle.
See, I was not in Cub Scouts for 3 years, and then I went into Boy Scouts later. That explains it.
Yeah. No, but so the funniest thing about this whole poly shit is that most of the time, I don't want to say most of the time, but most of the time I've seen it on the internet where like there's this weird Snapchat news page that covers shit like that. It's always some ugly ass weird looking dude with two like decently like 7 or 8 looking girls. And I'm just like, how of all people did this guy pull it off?
He's got to be like the funniest dude amongst the whole group of friends.
they're like,
You know
he's
that.
like-
You know that when there's
were-
a party, that dude is telling the jokes that put everybody else on
That's
their
the
ass.
thing. These are like, we were just talking about how Reddit's actually cool, but the bad side of Reddit, where it's like the fedora guys, it's always one of those kind of Reddit dudes that always is in these relationships that you're like, how, bro? There's no way he's that cool. Like,
Well,
you
now
can
see,
tell.
maybe that's a cultural disconnect too, because like maybe it's like a white collar thing. But like the parties I always went to, like those fedora wearing dudes, like they never actually go home with a check. They just stand around all night talking about their experience with chicks.
Oh, really?
And it's
Well,
some other dude who takes her home.
in our
Like,
generation,
I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I'm also outdated. Yes.
in our generation, we've gotten to a point where people have so much anxiety that that it's like a common meme for someone to say like, guys wait all week just to be posted up, like just to be posted up on the wall at a club. Like, there's a lot of people who wait all week to go to a big party, and they're like, the whole time they're like, can't wait to talk to bitches and shit. And then they get there and they talk to nobody but their homeboys, and it's like, dude, come on, man. I know it's hard, but like, come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know if that's generational though. There are things that have changed, but like I wouldn't worry about the young people in that regard. That shit happened 10, 15 years ago too.
Somehow,
Guys talk shit, then they go to the club and they're like, oh, I'm not going to talk to that girl. She might reject me. Like, that's just human psychology. I think
Somehow
people
our
were like going to
generation-
the tavern like in medieval days, and that same shit was happening. Like,
Nah, they get
two
rejected.
guys are on their way from the
Bastard.
field.
yeah, exactly. They get
Well,
rejected,
yeah,
they
if
just
he's
fucking
like a
rape her.
knight or
Back in-
some shit, but
back
like,
in
what
the
if he's
olden
like
days.
some dude who works the field? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna get the milkmaid to
The milk
stroke
dude.
my man nipple. Like, I don't know.
I think up until like the 1970s, any woman rejects a guy, they're getting a fucking backhand. Fucking, I would.
I will say, in a generation where most people think that like cheating is rampant and all this shit like that, our generation has had the least sex out of any generation over the last century, which I find very interesting.
Dude, my generation, it was going down too. It's gone
Yeah.
down more. It's gone down since the boomers. Like,
Yeah,
the
fucking
60s and
crazy.
70s, you had the sexual revolution. Fucking everybody was having sex everywhere. I think our media obsession is just because the boomers think it's still that way.
No,
It's like, no, the Gen Xers had less sex. Us millennials had even less, and the Gen Zers are having even
think-
less.
I think it's because there's a certain tier of man and women that get so much ridiculous amount of attention, and they really are living the lifestyles that like boomers and shit talk our generation for. But the problem is that's like the top like 10, 20, maybe 30% of our generation. The rest of our generation is like, it's pretty crazy how few people actually are having sex.
Dude, I have a theory. Like, not just about sex, but like about like media and like that whole thing you just talked about, which, let's face it, it's about way more than sex. It's
Yeah.
about success. It's about being physically attractive. It's about having your shit together. Like, it's about all aspects of life. Like, I think we are all, and I mean everybody, probably from the early 1900s forward, like from when we first had radio, we're all psychologically damaged because we evolved in like a tribal system, right? So you go back to hunter-gatherer days, and there's like max 500 people in your tribe, and at 500 people, it's like ready to split, because you can have about 200 in your immediate social circle before shit starts to break down. So you're existing in a society of a few hundred people, and in that kind of society, everybody is the best at something, right? You're not the best at everything. You're not like the shit necessarily. There's some dude who's the shit. But no matter who you are in that society, you're the best at something. There is something for which everybody in your little circle comes to you for. And now we're all comparing ourselves with groups of like, on the local level, hundreds of thousands, or even globally on the order of billions of people. How many of us are the best at anything on that scale?
Well, I think
we all just have this idea in our head, like, oh my God, I suck. No, if you existed in some village of 200 people, you would be the absolute best at a number of things. The problem is you're comparing yourself to the best of this absurdly unrealistic number of people where, like, nobody's the best.
But I think the problem is that those
I think my
people-
depression has been cured for about 5 minutes. I think this is going to stick in my head for about 5 minutes. I'll be like, he's got a point, and I agree with you. Like, for 5 minutes, my depression has been cured. And, like, I don't want to.
I think the real problem is that the reason we compare ourselves is because those people they are real competition for the women that we go for the friends that we make. Me, Billy, and Jock, we all play with kids from Canada. We play with a kid from Australia. I mean, on the small scale, my most recent ex-girlfriend lived an hour away from me. That was unheard of. Even in my parents' generation, you wouldn't date someone an hour away from you, but we could FaceTime. We had so much more means of communication. I know people who live in New York and date people in fucking LA. I mean, they are real competition is the problem.
Well, can I ask this? Because this is like a generational question. Because I went to school at Notre Dame, like international college.
That's awesome.
One of my best friends from there, like, he's a New Yorker. His wife is from Bulgaria. They met in college. But high school, obviously that shit didn't happen. Like, are you telling me this is happening with high school kids now, or like
I know
college kids from different areas? Because that's happened.
I'm telling
before.
you, I know high schoolers who date people who live hundreds to thousands of miles away from them and see them once every 6 months.
Could that have something to do with the lack of sex? Because when I was in high school, I was at least trying to hook up with girls in my zip code. Maybe they weren't perfect 10s because, limited pool to catch from, but at the same time, available.
I wouldn't say that for two reasons. Is one, that's not a majority of people, and two, when those people see each other, since they only get to see each other once every 6 months, I very much so imagine that they're having a lot of sex. So even if the person doesn't have sex like every day or like once or twice a week or whatever, when they finally do see their significant other, I imagine they have plenty of sex, so they wouldn't count into that statistic. So I wouldn't say that's why. I would say the reason is because of the internet, women could always so easily find a mate because they have the power when it comes to sex. But because of the internet, it has become even easier where they can find the highest echelon man in their 100-mile radius, and a lot of those men are willing to drive and or fly women out. It is not uncommon. I wouldn't say it's not uncommon, but at the same time, it is ridiculous the amount of women that you can meet and they'll be like, oh yeah, guy's flown me out from New York to Florida so we could hang out for a week. And like, that's an insane idea. That would never have happened 50 years ago.
Among average people,
yes,
I mean,
exactly.
among the wealthy, it
maybe like a
happened
celebrity
all the time,
would do that.
But like, no, I hear you. I mean, on the other hand, shit's always changing. Like, I met my current girlfriend 11 years ago. And when we met, it was just freaking weird for people to meet online. And even though our parents lived like 20 minutes apart, she was at school on the opposite side of the state from me. I had to drive like 3 hours to see her. And like, to some people, that was weird. And like, now nobody like thinks that's weird. Like, something like a quarter of couples now meet online.
Yeah. I will say, I think long drives aren't as odd when you have did you meet your girlfriend and when you guys lived close and then she moved away?
No, it was actually really weird. So yeah, our parents lived really close to each other, but like, she was still in college and I had just graduated. So she was living across the state. I was in the Philly area. She was going to college in the Pittsburgh area. I had gone to college out in Indiana at Notre Dame, but I was back. And I'm on Facebook. And at the time, Zeusk, which is like nobody even cares about Zeusk anymore, the dating service. But like at the time, they were running so many ads on Facebook that like you couldn't open your friend's page without seeing a Zeusk ad. So I'm like,
I've never even heard of it.
fuck it, I'm single. Exactly. Nobody has nowadays. But at the time, they were running a Facebook ad all the time. So I'm like, fuck it, I'm single. This thing's running an ad every 5 minutes. I may as well join, just if nothing else, to get the ads.
Don't
to
say
stop.
that, Dan. Now they won. Now they won. Now they know. They can just,
No, they got me. They
could
got
just
me in
keep
the
spamming
algorithm.
ads. Yeah, they could just keep spamming ads, and eventually you'll fold. I can't say I'm any different, but you can't admit that.
But yeah, anyway, and my girlfriend in the meantime had started an account for the same reason and was about to delete hers.
Wow.
And she went on to delete hers and saw me as a match, and we ended up hooking up, and it's been 11 years now.
That's crazy.
Like she's not into marriage, I'm not either, unless there are kids involved. Like I just see it as a set of unnecessary legal obligations, but we've been together 11 years, living together 9 of them, and sharing all our expenses. Like, if we're not married, I don't know who is.
Congrats, man. Definitely congrats on that. That's awesome. Wow. Yeah, no, I had a similarly odd story meeting my ex-girlfriend is. I just had her added on social media for a while, and then one night she posted, and I had always been interested in her, but I never had a car, and I knew she lived super far away. And so one night she just posted about how she broke up with her ex-boyfriend and how he was a douche or whatever. And I replied, and we got to talking, and then we ended up staying up literally the whole night on FaceTime, and the rest was kind of history. So yeah, the internet's a fucking crazy place. It'll create relationships that would have never happened otherwise.
Dude, hey man, to our earlier private conversation, I'm gonna say publicly. You're going the correct route with the decision you've made. However much else you want to say on camera is beyond my discretion.
Yeah, I don't want to risk anything, so I'll
yes, we would like this episode to still be online a year from now.
Well, I'm sure it will.
Be taken down.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. But the real question is, who's listening? You know, you never know. Until it's too late, then you know who's listening. You know what? Funny enough, I think we could talk about this. Talking of episodes we had to take down, I don't think anyone who cares will hear.
That's a good.
We dropped an episode that I would argue is probably one of our funniest episodes ever because
funnier episodes
for sure.
Not the funny.
Because one of our buddies came on, who I was living with at the time, because I had been kicked out of my parents' house, and he told us a ghost story, and then he told us a story about him getting walked in on by his brother while he was doing intimate things with his then girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend. And,
I thought you were gonna say with himself. That would have been even funnier. Be awesome. But go on.
No, but so
it's just documentary.
So he obviously he changed the name of the chick. He actually called her Billy the whole time and just pretended he was talking about Billy. But we posted a clip on Instagram and it blew up a little bit. And in our hometown, it got a lot of traction. And so it got back to the girl. And she messaged our buddy and was like, "You need to get this taken down." So we eventually, because I was living with him and I owed him a favor and all that, I took it down for him because he's a buddy I respected. I took it down for him. Now, luckily,
no respect, man, respect. I mean, that had to be hard to do. So
it was very hard to do.
Good friend.
It was, to this day, it's our most listened to episode. Even though it got taken off air in less than 48 hours. That's how popular that episode was. But we actually reposted it 1 week. We didn't have time to record, and it had been close to 4 or 5 months, I want to say. And I said, we're going to change the title so nobody knows, and we're going to repost it. And so we did. So to any listeners who are just now listening, this is your first episode or whatever, or maybe you got in a little late and you haven't listened to all the episodes, I would highly suggest going back and trying to figure out which episode it is. Because it was a very funny episode that we unfortunately had to take down, but luckily we have reposted it.
Now you're going to have to tell me in the text chat because I'm just so curious.
I'll tell you after. It's a very good episode. Well, because the thing is, the first 30, 40 minutes of the episode are really average, And then I texted my buddy because he's literally upstairs. Because like I said, I was living in his house. I was in his basement, and I was like, dude, like come on the podcast. And so he literally comes down the stairs and sits next to me, and we recorded it. And so the last 20 or 30 minutes of that episode is just extremely hilarious. So yeah, I'll definitely send it to you. And I would tell
Please do. I'm
all
so
our
curious.
Viewers, please go out and check that one. And it was a funny one for sure.
And to any of my listeners who may be tuning in, I am a big fan. You should watch all their episodes.
Thank you very much.
So, billiards, like, for number one, I can never remember your real life name. Like, you're always on the show. And, like, I know Jock and I know Nick because I talk with Nick, and Josh's name was in the old show title. And I'm assuming you're the can of baked beans, but I don't know your, like, actual name.
Pretty similar to billiards. It's you see what I changed
it's
now?
Billy. It's Billy. Billy, what's up with that sword? Like, you were going to tell me all about this.
Yeah, what happened?
No idea. For as long as I can remember, my grandfather has had this sword. My grandma says it's from when he fought in Vietnam. Not that I believe that, 'cause it seems kind of fake, to be honest. It's still a cool sword, though. I've been wanting this for about 15 years. My grandmother was like, when you turn 18, you can have the sword. So I got it last winter. I mean, that's when she gave it to me. She finally found it and remembered. I don't know. It's a pretty sick sword.
Oh, give me a closer view of that engraving, man. That is not just any edge.
That's
that.
Oh, yeah.
You said, wait, your grandfather?
Yeah.
Where
did he serve? I'm really curious as the audience gets a view of my unshaven chin.
Yeah, this is our ad to watch the YouTube. Go watch the YouTube so you can see what the sword looks like.
Yes, check it out. It's beautiful.
And he fought in Vietnam, and that's pretty much all I know about this. Honestly, I've wanted this since I was a kid. My grandma was like, when you're old enough, and I finally turned old enough. Not that it's sharp to do anything with, but
dude, I will tell you, as not an expert, but someone who knows a little bit about weaponry, that sword is one of two things. Either number one, which is more likely, disappointingly, it came from a gift shop and it's worth $10 and there are a million of them.
Yeah.
Or number two, with that kind of engraving and symbolism, that is an uncommon sword and maybe worth getting looked at. Like, I'm not saying sell it. I would never sell anything that awesome, much less something that belonged to my grandfather. But, like, I would seriously go get that appraised, because at least then you know whether you can just, like, keep it in your closet or maybe you, like, whether ought to get a case for that shit.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It says Thomas Jefferson at the hilt.
Well, yeah, but that could be a maker's mark, or it could be some special limited edition sword that's worth thousands of dollars. But I would definitely take that shit to an expert, man. Like, that is a nice sword.
I mean, regardless, I probably would never sell it.
Well, yeah, but if it's something special, maybe you'd be more careful with it.
I might. I mean, Nick got a car from his grandfather. I got a sword. I don't know which one's cooler at this point, but I'm thinking the sword.
Should I tell the story of how I got my car? I don't think I've ever told it on the podcast.
Go, yeah.
Dude, tell it. Then I will tell you the story of my grandfather's World War II medals. Please tell me.
There goes Jock again. So my grandfather owned a gas station, and he also sold, and it was like also a garage where they had mechanics, and he also sold used cars. And so when he would get attached to a car, that he would just keep it instead of reselling it, and he'd drive it around. So he got really attached to this 2008 Audi A6. It's silver, fucking sweet car. It's a Quattro. It's a V6 turbo. I can dust Mustangs and Camaros in that thing. It is a quick car. So
nice.
When I was about 14, this is about 4 or 5 years ago, I was about 13 or 14. I couldn't drive yet. My grandfather got cancer, and he was on his deathbed. And I was super religious at the time, and I didn't want to be a priest, but I was thinking about being a priest. And my grandfather came to me and said, well, I guess I came to him because he was literally dying in a bed. But he came to me and said, if you promise to never be a priest and never bend over little boys, you can keep the Audi. And I was like, Okay, deal. Like, that's a pretty sick gig.
Whoa,
Yeah, sure.
whoa, hold on a second, man. I gotta the second half of what he said. Like, you just gotta back that the fuck up.
Well, my grandfather.
Like, I mean, was he like a lifelong atheist, or was he
No,
like a
no,
former altar boy and like some
My
shit had
grandfather
happened?
was born in Italy, if I remember correctly. He was a super Catholic, but he was one of those guys who wasn't so ignorant about how evil the church is that he was just gonna blindly follow them, which I always appreciated, and it's something that kind of shaped me as a religious person. So I've separated myself from the church. But
now
so,
let me ask.
yeah,
Let me ask
ahead.
you this. This is fascinating to me because I was raised Catholic.
Yeah, me too.
And I wasn't just raised Catholic. I was raised like Latin Mass Catholic.
Oh wow. Yeah, he
Okay,
knew all
like,
that shit. I never knew
When
that.
I was
He knew that.
when I was 9 years old, I'm sorry, my family went on a pilgrimage to Medjugorje in
Jeez.
Croatia.
Oh wow.
Like, where the Virgin Mary supposedly appeared. Like, wild experience, amazing. Like, I wouldn't give it up. Like, we went there in the middle of the ceasefire in the 90s.
Yeah.
So, like, as a kid, like, we got to go through like a former resort town where the tour guide's like, oh yeah, and that brick wall with all the rust-colored marks on it, that's where they lined up the Serbians and shot them all with the execution squad. Like,
Nice.
literally driving past farmers' fields with burned out tanks still sitting them. Like, it was wild, but like, no, I hear you. Like, I was an altar boy, and
me too.
my
Till I was
my
18.
mom gave me the talk. Like, one of those priests gets too close to you or gets creepy, you'd let me know talk.
Oh,
And one did. I had.
Talk.
Oh no, I meant like the some of them priests are trying to grab your prepubescent dick talk.
Yeah, I never got
Like,
that.
I had a priest come in on me once when I was like 12 years old. Like, I had to back my way out of that. Like, that was creepy as fuck.
Even
when
once
you're
I
a little
started
kid.
even once I started to distance myself from the church, I actually worked for my church as a janitor for a while. So I'm actually extremely close with my priest, and not in a touchy way, just as like a mentor kind of way. So
Well, no,
I'm-
priests are people
I'm pretty
and they're
lucky.
friends and everything else.
I'm pretty lucky. I mean, I make a lot of jokes about that kind of stuff, but I'm pretty lucky. I actually had a lot of. I think we went through 3 priests. Funny enough, one of our priests, because I don't know how much you remember, Dan, but they can only stay for 7 years without being renewed. So one of our priests got cut short because he used to go to a town like 30 minutes away from us, and someone accused him of sexual assault right in the midst of all of this, or like someone accused him of touching them as a child about like 30 years ago or something. And so right in the midst of all this like stuff that was coming out about the church didn't want to risk it, and they immediately banished him. Sadly, he was probably one of my favorite priests, and he eventually got proven innocent. But the church had so much of those pedophile claims going on that they didn't want to risk it. They didn't want to risk their image at all, so they had banished him from being a priest for forever. The dude was like 60 or something, so that was his whole fucking life. That was all he ever knew. So I always felt very bad for him. But
that sucks.
yeah, it was quite a shame.
Still? That's the real question. Is he alive?
Yeah, he's alive. I've heard
Surprised
from him.
I
a
would
few
have killed
times.
myself if I were him. Jesus, been over.
I don't know. I think it's hard for a religious person that has been a priest for 40 plus years and been into religion their whole life to commit suicide. Even in a bad spot like that.
I'm going to say something controversial that may get this episode banned from YouTube.
Go ahead.
Why isn't there less of a taboo around suicide?
I
mean, I've considered it as
the right
legit.
place, Dan. I think.
I've considered it as a legitimate alternative in some places. Like, really, I mean, if you're dying of cancer and your last 3 years are just going to be horrible, unending pain and miserable poverty that forces your children to invest their entire life savings in chemo spending that will not be effective. Why wouldn't you just put a shotgun in your mouth?
My opinion
goodness,
is
I would.
The only reason you shouldn't commit suicide is if you truly believe in heaven and hell, because then you'd go to hell. But if you're just an atheist person And those are always the guys who are like anti-suicide the most, because they're like, oh, if God isn't real, that means you're a big cosmic mistake, so what's the reason of ending it? If God isn't real and there's no true purpose, then who gives a fuck if you kill yourself? It truly doesn't matter then.
Well, that
and if there is
baffles
a God,
me.
then it's a lot more complex. But if you're an
There's only
atheist,
one
I
reason.
can't understand being anti-suicide.
There is one reason why I haven't done it so yet. There's one
I
reason
don't
why
want to look like a bitch! I don't want to look like a bitch. It's the
Just
only
way
reason
out.
I haven't killed myself.
Oh yeah, make fun of your friend who has a deep
No,
thing to say.
I genuinely agree that it is the pussiest thing
No,
to do ever.
I said
You
that
take
because
the
that's what
easy
Billy was
way
going to
out.
say, Dan.
Take the easiest way out of life. Like, you
It's
kill
a
yourself.
coward thing to do. That's the only reason I haven't
Yeah,
done
but
it.
why do you
I don't
care
want-
where you're dead? Like,
I
you're
don't want-
dead. It's not like you're gonna get laid either way.
I don't care.
Because
At the
I don't
end
want
of
to
the
go
day-
out like a bitch.
At the end of the day, they're at my funeral. They're gonna be like,
Yeah, he's a
"Damn,
bitch, bro.
he really
Like, I
killed
miss him, but he was a
himself. He's whole
bitch.
bitch. Like, I'm crying right now, but he's a bitch.
That's
He was
what I'm
all
saying.
sad.
We
That
have
was
all
his choice.
we have all
But
had this
instead-
conversation plenty of times.
Instead, I could have gotten cancer, and then they could all
Yes.
feel pity for me.
There you go.
Two types of funerals. Or the second thing is like, I die in a drunk driving accident, and everybody shows up drunk to my funeral. That's the ideal death. That's the ideal death.
We
But it's-
constantly talk about the fact that we put ourselves in high risk situations, because at least if you go out doing something, then people aren't like, he's a bitch, he killed himself. It was like, oh, you tried to save somebody and you died. Like, that's awesome. That's the best way to go, kind of thing.
Your family's still sad, but they're not sad or mad at
Yes,
you.
exactly.
Not your fault.
I
You
like
killed
that.
yourself. You made your
Okay,
entire
so-
family cause
So if
them
I
all.
ever want to off myself, I'll just like
It's
join
pussy.
some mercenary company and volunteer for a suicide mission.
Yeah, that's,
I don't
that's
know.
Like, hey, he was a dumbass, but
Yeah.
he died like a man.
No, I
That's
remember
the whole point.
when I worked at a grocery store, I would like literally I would fantasize about someone coming in and trying to mug me, because I would because if someone came to my register and pointed a gun at me and was like, give me the money or you die, I'd be like, dude, you picked the wrong fucking guy, man. You picked the wrong dude. I don't know.
remember.
I agree with you, Dan. I don't understand why suicide is so taboo. And it's very taboo for non-religious people, and that's the only time I can really comprehend why you would be taboo against it.
Look, I get it. We don't want 15-year-olds offing themselves because their girlfriend called them a bitch on Instagram. But like, I don't know. There's a point where it becomes sensible.
I think it's taboo because, in most scenarios that people think about suicide, like, having cancer is kind of a unique scenario. Not that many people
Yeah.
like a lot of people get cancer,
That's
but
true.
it's like a special scenario. People who are suicidal there's more people depressed than cancerous. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a
So-
huge distinction there, right? Is something temporary? Can we fix this and your life gets good and we move on? Or is this like
Suicide's a
terminal
long-
cancer where you have 3 months of agonizing pain ahead of you and then you die?
I read this very interesting piece about how the reason depression is going up, and it was a theory, obviously, but it's because we've taken essentially like more evolved monkeys who were just meant to literally breed and hunt and survive, and we've made such a society that is so complex. How could you not be depressed with the amount of complexity that life has? You were born just to go around and hunt and fuck and feel accomplished. Now most people sit at home working some job that they hate, and they're just fucking sad all the time. A lot of people don't have a love or like a significant other in their life. There's a lot of people, like we were talking about, especially in our two generations, that don't have a lot of sex. I mean, depression rising is not a surprise to me, and I don't understand how it's a surprise to people. As life gets more complex and you have to do less surviving and more pursuing, we've come to that point. Survival is extremely, extremely easy at this point, and that is what we were set to do. So we've come to such a complex point in life that survival isn't enough to keep you alive. You need to pursue things that interest you to keep yourself alive.
Dude, can I like cut that rant and use it as like a promo for your podcast and my podcast? Because that was amazing.
Sure. Yeah.
That was brilliant.
Thank you.
Like, I feel the same way. Like, that gets back to what I was saying earlier. Like, it's the same point. Like, we all used to be the best at something.
Yes, exactly. We all used to have our place in society, and now almost no one has a place in society. And even if you find a place, it's usually somewhere that you didn't want to be. I mean,
And you're replaceable. You're replaceable.
Yes. How many people work fucking dead-end jobs that they never thought they would be at?
Right? Even if you're the lowest man on the totem pole in that, 10,000 BC tribe, you do something that everybody needs you for. You feel important. You feel wanted.
And then
at least wanted, if not important, at least welcome.
Back to another one of your points, Dan, is with the internet, now not only do you feel unfulfilled, you feel replaceable, you feel unremarkable. You go on the internet, you watch kids who are younger than me. I'm 18. You watch people who are younger than me driving around in Lamborghinis, taking expensive vacations with beautiful women, and you just look at your life and you're like, why would I want to be around? And that's why depression is so rampant. You can find so many successful people that you could even argue don't deserve it. There are so many people who just grew up famous because their parents were famous, and so they make a shitty music career like Willow Smith, and even though she fucking sang Whip Her Hair Back and Forth, she made millions of fucking dollars off it because she's Will Smith's daughter.
That song's a fire song. You cannot...
I went to the hair back and forth.
And then you look at yourself and you're like, wow, in high school, everybody told me I had so much potential. Now I'm 30 years old and I work at a fucking... I've worked a lot of like minimum wage jobs, which I have no problem with. I'm 18. That's what I expect. But the people I meet that are 40 and 50, I cannot tell you how much pity I feel for these people. You can feel in their eyes, you can feel in their words how unfulfilled, how saddened they are by the fact that they clock in 9 to 5 at a minimum wage job that 18-year-olds work at. I couldn't imagine, man. It's never going to be me. I refuse to let that be me.
Dude, I feel the same way. I'll be straight. I'm 35. I live below the poverty line right now, despite having a Notre Dame degree. It's because I refuse to take a dead-end job like that.
I completely agree with you.
I will
rather be
a writer. I will work my content like I'm out of debt. But other than that, I'm poor as shit. But you know what I'm not doing? I'm not clocking into some job that sucks my soul out. Like, I wake up at 5 in the morning, sometimes 6, and at least I'm excited to get started. I mean, geez, I can't even imagine. Like, I did it for 10 years to pay off my loans. Like, I'm getting up in the morning to do this job I hate. And that is the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yep. And then you add the complexity of having a woman and children in your life. And now, even though you're working a shitty job and all you have is the few times you can spend your little amount of money on your happiness, now you got to divulge it to them. Or divert it to them, I should say. I can't imagine, man. I really cannot imagine sitting in a fucking cubicle working fucking... Even if I don't care if I got paid $100 an hour to sit in a cubicle, I can't fucking imagine it, man. It just sounds awful.
$100 an hour.
It depends what you're doing. I've worked cubicle jobs before, and I'll say they vary. Like, I worked one in college as an internship. It was amazing because it eliminated my entire faith in the global financial system. So I was interning at this building in Philly. And, like, if you drove past it, it looked like an abandoned warehouse. Like, it looked like shit. But that was by design, because, like, it housed backup computer systems for the U.S. Mint and the Department of Defense and, like, other important people. And, like, they don't want the building to look important, right? They want it to look like some piece of junk nobody would ever care about. But, like, working this job, man. Like, I'm a college intern. Okay, I'm making minimum wage just to say I worked for this company. And one of the things they had me do was update the firmware on a server that handled 28% of NASDAQ traffic. Look, I'm not an ageist. I love young people. But I don't think you give a 19-year-old with no experience with the software, mind you, the responsibility of updating a server that handles like a quarter of American financial traffic.
Jesus.
I think maybe you put your top engineer on that task, but they're so focused on strategic goals, they're just going to hand that off to some intern. And that was it. I was 19 years old, and I'm updating the firmware on this server, and I'm like, this is how the entire world is run, isn't it?
Yup.
There's some asshole like me handling the most important aspect of everything, isn't there?
Jesus. I wish I could get an internship like that, though.
You know what, though, Dan? Is just like how you were talking about how someone used to be good at everything, we've come to a point where everyone has been told, I don't know about your generation, I'd assume the millennials too, but especially my generation, is everyone is told not only that they're special, but that they're the one. Like, you are Neo in the Matrix. Everyone is going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. Everyone
what a horrendous lie.
Everyone, some people are meant to just work dead-end jobs. And for certain people, there's nothing wrong with that because that's what they enjoy. They like having a simple life where they have few responsibilities. And there's nothing wrong with that. But everyone is brought up to believe that you are going to be the next Mark Zuckerberg. You're going to be the next Bill Gates. You're going to be the next Steve Jobs. You're fucking not, man. It's a fucking lie. And I can't believe how many people fall for it. And how many people who are extremely average, including myself, believe that one day people are going to care about what I say. So let's start a podcast and talk about it. I mean, like, it's crazy. No one cares what we have to say. It's fucking insane. But because it's been hammered into our heads that, oh, if you just cared enough, if you just grinded hard enough, you could be someone famous. It's fucking bullshit. It's like comedians, there are a few comedians who are honest about it. Bill Burr, Bo Burnham. You can't just be a comedian because you like it. It is a natural born skill. You have to have a certain amount of natural talent. And it's like that with anything you can think of. So just like you said, everyone used to have a role that mattered. Everyone still has that. But the problem is everyone thinks they have the biggest and most important role. And some people are destined to be a grocery stocker for the rest of their life, as shitty as it fucking sounds.
I don't agree that everything requires natural talent, or like a certain thing requires natural talent. I think you can work towards it.
Billy,
I think you can work towards it. I
no,
don't agree
Billy.
with that.
Everything requires a certain amount of natural talent.
I think there are some things that do not require that.
Like for
I
example,
think that, like, working construction jobs, like, you may not have any natural talent at it, but you're gonna learn it with time. And you're good at it with time.
I
It may
disagree.
take you
Hold on,
20 years,
I'm gonna
30
dispute
years.
that. Having worked with people in the construction industry,
yeah,
if you were accident prone, and we all know accident prone people, if you are injury prone, and we all know them,
Billy, what you're
you
doing
shouldn't work in construction.
What you're doing is you're taking your brain, and both of us grew up very privileged, very intelligent, and we are pretty lucky and privileged people. The median average IQ is 100 in this country, dude. Retard IQ is 75. You know how close 100 is to 75? Pretty fucking insane, man. No, everybody couldn't do construction. Yeah, everybody can fucking nail a hammer in, I'm sure, but everyone is not going to succeed in construction. There are people who are just destined to be at those dead ends, not useless, but unfulfilling jobs, because they just can't handle more than that. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not that person, and it could never be me.
Well, the real problem, as I see it, is, geez, and I hate to come off as like a bleeding heart here, but we don't reward basic jobs enough. Like, capitalism has a good sense for the idea that there should be greater rewards for some jobs than others. Like, why is somebody going to study 10 years to be a brain surgeon if they're going to make the same amount as somebody who like drops out of high school and works at the convenience store? Like, obviously there has to be some kind of incentive, but I don't know, we get to this point where we're at like, oh my God, if you make one choice when you're 17 years old and applying for colleges, you're like, yeah, exactly.
Can I give you a good example of where our current job, like the current society of job that we have fails? There are, I would even argue, a majority of jobs where people are supposed to clock in 8-hour days, 5 days a week, but they finish their work in 2 hours. But the thing is, they can't sit around for the next 6 hours. So we have gotten to a point where we encourage faking doing work or faking pretending you're doing something so that you don't look like you're doing nothing. We need to get to a point where it's not because what the problem right now is, majority of jobs, we sell our time. 1 hour equals $15. 1 hour equals $25. That is not the right way to do it. There are people, I'll tell you, even a small scale. I used to work at a grocery store, and I used to work register for most of the time, but I eventually moved to dairy. I worked 8-hour shifts, so I just have to go in the back, pull boxes out, and knock them onto the shelf. I would work 8-hour shifts. I would be done in the first 2 hours. I would have to spend 6 hours hiding in the bathroom, hiding in the back room, so that no one noticed I wasn't doing anything or sent me home early because I needed the money. We need to get past the point where we're selling our time, and we need to start selling our labor. I did all the work that you thought would take 8 hours, so why don't you pay me for 8 hours even though it only took me 2? We need to get to a method where, and like a fucking I don't know the right word, but just we need to get to a system that works that way, where you're not rewarded for more time in, you're rewarded for being efficient. We are at anti-efficiency. It is ridiculous. The more efficient you are, the more punishment you get for it, because you either have to fake work, and then you go in every day saying, wow, I'm going to spend 6 hours doing nothing after I finish my work, or you don't fake your work, but instead it's just a waste of time. I just don't understand it. You get sent home early because you finished your work early, and you're genuinely punished for efficiency. That's why, for example, Dan, and I'm sure you can agree, I really like freelance working. Someone says, here's the task, here's what I'm willing to pay you, it has to be done by this time. I don't care how many hours it takes you. As long as it's done by this time, I will pay you this amount. And that's why I think freelance working is growing and growing. And things like Uber and DoorDash and Uber Eats are growing and growing and growing. Because people are done saying, I'm selling my time, I'm going to sell my efficiency and how good I can do something.
Dude, absolutely. It's funny you're saying this, and I have like the same conversation with my girlfriend all the time, because she works hourly, and like she understands when she's trying to get ready for work and stuff, and I'm like trying to be super chatty, and she's like, yo, I gotta get ready for work, like I gotta get out the door here. And then we have to have a similar but opposite conversation when she has the day off and I'm sitting here trying to type up 5,000 words in a day to make my meat. And it's like, oh, did you see this cute thing I saw on Facebook? And I have to be like, yo, I'm not just fooling around online here. Like, I can be here for 6 hours or 20 hours, but the work's got to be done, so I'm trying to get it done.
Yeah.
Like, so it is a different mindset.
Yeah, I think we really have to start rewarding efficiency instead of punishing it.
No, here's the question: how would you transition to that, though?
Well, awkward.
Billy, no.
Two
it's so
answers.
easy. It's so easy. Have you ever heard of salary pay, Billy?
I have, yes.
Yeah, we just transitioned to salary pay, man. But the thing is, people aren't willing to do that at simple jobs like working at a grocery store. Why am I going to give 18-year-old a salary when I could just clock them in for 8 hours a day? Well, if an 18-year-old can finish the work in 2 hours. Now, there are certain jobs that you can never change that at. here are a couple good examples. I do security at a hospital. I could never finish my work in 2 hours. The whole point of security is to be there and be a presence. A cashier at a grocery store.
Right, yeah, you can't complete half the shift and say, well, building's safe.
Exactly. A cashier is the same way. A cashier, you need to be there to do your job. You can't be, I mean, you can be more and less efficient, but you can't be like, oh, I finished all the customers in 2 hours. Customers are coming almost infinitely. So there are jobs that need to stay hourly, but the mistake we make is we don't give, and I don't know if salary is the best way, it's just the easiest solution that I have, is that you can switch a lot of people to salary. You can, and it should, genuinely, when I worked at the grocery store and I was stocking, I would come in hours late and no one would care because they knew I would get my work done. So it was like, what's the big deal? Why do we have to you have to come in this hour? Why don't we have between fucking 12 a.m. and midnight, you have to come in and get this task done. If it is not done by then you are in trouble. I don't care if you come in for 2 hours or you come in for 8 hours. You're going to get paid a base salary that you believe is acceptable, and we'll move on from there. I don't understand why I'm going to come in for 2 hours and do work and then go hide in the bathroom in the back room for 6 hours and do fucking nothing. And why don't you just pay me the whole 8 hours and I'll do all the same I'll do all the same work? You wouldn't notice the difference.
Dude, I mean, for to your point, like some stuff, like a cashier or a bank teller, that has to be manned. But like for most jobs, I hear you. It incentivizes inefficiency.
Exactly.
I mean, how many people do you know who intentionally work slowly at their job?
Too many.
Or who? Yeah, because, right?
Yep.
Right, like I'm sorry, I don't have that problem. I get paid between 1 and 5 cents a word, depending on the project, which is quite the range. But point being, if I write an article in an hour and I write that same article in 5 hours, I get paid the same amount.
Yeah.
I work slowly because I'm trying to push the clock, make it 8 hours a day.
Exactly.
What do you do?
Exactly.
Really construction. That's what I'm doing construction right now. I mean, if I don't push the clock, I have nothing. If I don't take my time, I'll basically have nothing to do. Or if a job's finished earlier, I'll be sent home. So.
Are you trying to make it in that field, or is this just
really,
something you're doing through college?
Billy,
it's $20 an hour, all cash, so it's a sweet deal right now.
Nice.
Billy,
I get paid a lot of money to push the clock.
Here's a perfect example of something that could change in your industry that a lot of people already do. Instead of paying you by the hour, they pay you by the job. So the job, it costs this much to buy the materials, and it should take about this amount of time, so we'll give you $5,000 flat for the job. And so now it doesn't matter if it takes you a week or a month. As long as you finish the job, you're getting that amount of money. That incentivizes you to do the job as quickly as possible so you can move on to the next one.
In terms of man hours, that's easy, but in terms of actual materials, that's hard, because then you may fuck up or something may not go the way you want it, and you may need to buy more materials. You may need to spend more hours on this.
Well, luckily,
can I add to that, Nick?
Please do.
As someone who has some experience in construction,
yeah, so do I.
Sometimes your job may be contingent on other jobs. So if you're a roofer and you're putting down shingles, you can only work as fast as the people operating the boom lift can get your supplies up there.
Yeah.
If you're like some super fast roofer and you're just nailing down them shingles as fast as possible and come on boys, bring me more,
well, here's the question,
I'm
Dan.
not saying there aren't slower or faster roofers.
Here's the
I'm
question,
saying
Dan.
even if you're the fastest roofer in the world, there's a limit.
Here's the question. When you become the fastest roofer and you realize, wow, so let's say it takes those guys 60 full seconds to get all the roofing supplies up. It only takes me 30 seconds to roof. Now, if you're getting paid by the day instead of by the hour, you know what you're going to do? hey guys, let's put our heads together and figure out a way for you guys to get that shit up here. Now, there is a limit to that. There is a certain point where you just humanly can't do something faster, but I'm sure you can make processes like that way more efficient if you would be benefited by it. But in fact, if you're the fastest roofer, you are being benefited. If you're getting paid hourly, you are being benefited by the slowness of the people who are bringing you the supplies, because you want to be there for as many hours as possible, even if you can do the job quickly. But if you're getting paid by the job, if you're getting paid by the job,
you could make more.
Exactly.
Unless you could make more by the job. I'm sorry, I think that's where you were going.
Yes, that's exactly where I'm going. If you're getting paid by the job, all you're thinking is, the more jobs I have, the more money I do. So the faster I do this job, the faster I can move on to the next roof, and I can do another roof. So what I'm going to do is spend my 30 seconds of rest figuring out how I can make their shit way more efficient, and maybe take that 30 seconds between when I finish and when they're done to lower it down to 15 seconds. And so now you're even more faster and efficient. But if you're getting paid hourly, you have no reason to do that, because all you're doing by making things more efficient is hurting your pay and getting paid less.
Did you know actually that you're building a house, so you make a contract to build a house. Most of the time they're by the job. And
that's what I'm saying. Your boss is getting paid by the job, but you're getting paid by the hours. The fucked up.
Yeah, that's on the contractor level, not on the specialist level.
And then they write up blueprints. You say, this is how I want it. I want it this way, this way, this way, before the job's actually started. If someone comes in and says, shit, I don't like how that looks, can you change it? Depending on the contract, most times it'll change to hourly at that point. And then you'll be fucked paying for that shit, because you went from, I don't know, like $32,000 for a job to X amount of hours that you have to spend on that job now. Like, you're paying hourly compared to salary. That's a big difference when it comes to building a house.
Dude, when we were 19 years old, my buddy got absolutely fucked that way.
How so?
So I was home from college, and I was working for him because I was a college student. He has his own company, when I was in sophomore year. So I'm like, shit, I'll work for him. And it was a second job, and I'm working nights, and he has this job to revamp this old, Orthodox Jewish school. And we start working on this one wall, and the job is to repair the drywall because it's got water damage. So we open it up. And when we take out all the old rotted drywall, there's plumbing behind it that is leaking. Oh, well, here's when my boy Ben made his mistake. He did not contact the property owner. He invested well over $1,000 in upgrading and fixing all the plumbing. And then fixed the drywall, which is how you should really fix that kind of problem. Yeah. But he didn't get it in writing. So he reaches out to the building owner to get reimbursement. And the guy's like, I only authorized fixing a wall. You did $1,000 in plumbing repairs? Well, that's on you.
Did not act.
Yeah. And my boy got screwed because he didn't get a change work order.
Damn. You know what, Dan? While you're telling stories, I completely forgot. We've been so engrossed in what we've been talking about. Completely forgot. We had talked about a drug story that you wanted to share on the show.
Refresh my memory.
We were talking about
I've
LSD.
done too many drugs. Oh, okay.
I think you said it was a story about one of your friends, though, not necessarily about you, although you were there. Or maybe your brother or something like that. I can't remember. It was something related to LSD, though. We were definitely talking about LSD.
Oh, I have so many LSD stories. That doesn't sound better.
Well, pick one, because we'll definitely have you on again, but just... pick one. I'm very interested. When we were talking on the phone, you sounded like you had a lot of good stories to go on.
Oh, I don't know which one I was referencing now at this distance, particularly after drinking through this whole episode.
You were drinking through the phone call too. We were on the phone for an hour, and you were pretty sloshed.
I'm usually drinking, my friend, unless I'm recording pre-edited stuff.
That's what we like to hear. It usually drinking.
My brother came out once, and my girlfriend's at work, and she's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna come home, and you guys, we'll have some dinner." So I had the day off. He had the day off. He brought some acid, so we decided to drop some acid. We sit around home all afternoon, listen to music, whatever. But my girlfriend's riding the bus home from work, so we go out to meet her. And we decide to grab some beer on the way back. And now we live in the city, like we live in the hood in Syracuse. Okay, so like we're going to like the corner gas station to grab some beers while she's on her way back. And we go to this corner gas station, both of us tripping balls. And it is early August, late July. It's around the time of the state fair here in upstate New York, which means like the state fair is in Syracuse, and you get all kinds of like transients and homeless people, and everybody else under the sun shows up for this event because there's a lot of out-of-towners in town. Like if you're homeless, people give you change, whatever. So it's like the week after this event, we're out buying beers, and my brother and I are well aware that we're tripping balls, so we're standing outside the gas station while my girlfriend goes in and buys for us with my card. And this couple walks up to us. Now, these two distinguished people are obviously meth addicts. Like teeth falling out, the sores all over the face, all this, like both of them. And the hilarious thing is, like, they're both just trying to act totally chill. Dude walks up to me. So, hey man, we're migrant farm workers. Now we're the whitest dude I've ever met. Says he's a migrant farm worker.
Okay. Interesting.
We got to find some work. Can you help us out in the meantime? And I'm thinking to myself, I've given money to homeless people before, but I'm not going to give it to these people. So I'm like, oh yeah, good luck. Harvest a little past up here, maybe move down south. So this guy's like, oh, well, you got any help you can give us in the meantime? Like, yeah, I got advice. State fair's over. If you're looking for seasonal work, go down to Georgia. And my girlfriend comes out at that point, and we start walking home. But the hilarious part is my brother was raised in the suburbs. So, like, this entire encounter for me was just like vanilla, going out to buy beers, run into a homeless person, have a brief conversation, tell them off, because that's what happens when you live in the city. Like, he grew up in the suburbs, and he knows none of this. And he is the entire way back just like... And I apologize to all the audio listeners because that means nothing. I was looking bewildered in every direction, as if there were universal threats. But that's how he felt, and like to this day, he still brings that up. Although he moved into Philly like 3 months ago, and he's never lived in the city before. So I think he may finally stop bringing up his adventure with the homeless people.
Yeah, he's gonna start getting a lot more.
Yeah, I stopped giving money to homeless people a long time ago.
Yeah, me too.
Holy
I've moved to offering them rides or like getting a meal with me. I just think it's a safer bet.
I actually saw my first homeless person in Binghamton.
Really?
In Binghamton?
Yeah.
I was just there like 4 days ago on a Greyhound
That's where
bus.
him and Jock go to college there.
Yeah, we go to college there. Now I'm home. But like when I was there, it was like the first time it'd been like. So I went to St. Louis, right? And I saw tons of homeless people there. I always asked them for money. I was like, I don't have money. I usually had granola bars in my car. So I was like, you want a granola bar? They'd say no because they're just looking for money. I'm like, I'm hungry. I need food. Can I have some money? I'm like, I got a granola bar. And they're like, nah, I don't want your granola bar. I'm like, okay, dude.
Fuck your granola
I'm not
bar.
giving you my money. So this dude, I was like, he was sitting outside of Beer Depot, it's called. and he was fucking drunk as shit. And I was trying to buy beer, and he was like, "I need a ride back to see my son. I just got out of jail." And I'm like, "Okay, it's like the fourth time I've heard I just got out of jail."
Right.
Classic story. That's a classic story.
Yeah, but probably the third time it's been true in some respect. Most of them just got out
one
of
of them
jail.
was true, but there's been too many to believe at this point. And he's like, "You have any cash on you, or can you give me a ride?" And I'm not giving this guy a ride. And so I'm like, "Sorry, dude, I don't have any cash." And I walk in the store, I get what I need, I walk out, and we had literally the same exact conversation as we had before. It's like, "I just got out of jail, bro." I'm like, "I'm sorry, dude. I paid with my card. I have no cash on me. I had fucking plenty of cash, but I'm like, I'm sorry."
See, I'm telling the truth. I only carry a card.
It's just like,
Well, let me ask. Okay, so you have a fake then. If
Yeah,
you're less than 21 and you went in and bought. Do you want to hear something? When I was in college, my buddies and I made fakes. I was the Photoshop dude with the templates for out-of-state licenses. I never once had a fake myself.
People think I'm 25, so I've never bought a fake because it's never been an issue for me.
yeah, my fake's in New York.
Well, I never
ID,
needed
actually.
one. I've never been a bar guy. I'm just like, I had so many friends who
Yeah, me
had
too.
fakes. There was never an issue
actual-
getting
Yeah,
booze.
I'm in the
For
same
any
boat.
cops listening, my fake is it's not fake, it's real. But just stating it's a real. I'm actually
Out of
21.
all
I have
10
a
of
real
our
ID.
listeners, I'm sure one of
of
them is a
course,
cop.
of
One of
course.
you guys is a cop. I'm 21. Anyways, it's actually a New York ID, which is quite interesting because I go home and I put my actual town, just not the right street address. So a little sketchy when I'm trying to buy
Where'd you
stuff.
go? What'd you put it? I would always put mine at Beach Street.
Oh,
I feel like
go ahead,
it's
go
an easy
ahead.
street to remember.
Oh,
I got a
I
story.
don't want to. So something. I mean, Nick, you know my address, right? You know what
Yeah,
road I live
yeah.
on.
Yeah.
So my address on the ID is 29 Schultz Drive.
Oh, okay. So I guess
So it's easy to remember,
a
right?
remix.
Easy to remember. It's just like a remix.
And that's going to be a big old long bleep in the YouTube version.
No, it's not.
It's a fake address.
It's not a real road.
I don't know where that is actually.
I don't think it's a
okay.
real
Where
road.
that is.
I mean, it might exist, but not
Or
by
it
us.
might exist, but not
Not
by
by
us.
us.
Dude, when I was in college, my buddy went out and bought a fake ID, and it was a legit ID. But this dude, he's like 5'2", okay, little tiny short Jewish dude. The legit ID he buys, yeah, sure, the face looks vaguely like him. Yeah, height 6'3".
Jesus.
He got
Yeah.
it taken from the first bar we went to. The bouncer was like, "Oh, you shrank a little, huh?" Oh, it was bad.
Apparently, they seem really easy to order online now. Like I feel like almost like I feel like I get like a group. I mean, I put in a group chat like anybody need fakes. I'm putting an order together. Almost like every couple of weeks, every month or so. They seem really easy to order online. Now I know that buying them is a hassle because the ones that I got, if you're not buying it with Bitcoin, they're charging you 15 extra per ID. So say an ID costs $60, they charge you 15 extra because you're using like PayPal or some shit like that. So
Well, yeah, when I was in college, it was just all cash, and like on the one hand, it was easier because like the IDs didn't have like all the crazy security features and stuff they have today. On the other hand, like they also didn't have like the central databases you have today. Like nobody had a scanner. So if your ID looked legit, it would pass. Now, like if they bust out that scanner, it's got to pass.
it depends where you go. I mean,
You can't
some
just Photoshop that shit.
Some IDs scan, but like you go to your gas station, they're probably not gonna scan it. They probably don't have the scanner there. You go to a grocery store, they probably will.
See,
I mean,
in New
Nick-
York, they're required to now.
Yeah, Nick, did they?
Maybe they
scan
don't near you. In Syracuse, they do. Maybe there's less
Well,
lax
stations do?
enforcement.
Gas station scan the cards?
Oh, fuck yeah,
wow.
dude. I go to the local 7-Eleven or the Speedway gas station.
I'll say,
Dude, you want to buy a 6-pack of beer, they're going to scan your ID.
a buddy of ours uses a fake. I think it's fake and the picture looks like nothing like him. It's some random Russian kid. I mean, he's like 18 or 19, so it looks like maybe it could have been him a few years ago, maybe. And he went to the gas station by me, and he gave her the card, and she didn't say anything about how it looked weird, but it wasn't scanning. And she was like, oh, like, I'm sorry, it's kind of policy, we got to scan it. And he was like, oh, come on, like, you know that's me. And so she just gave it to us. So maybe it's just the area we live in.
Oh, I'm sure you can talk your way around it. I've never had to.
I think
I've never had a fake ID, but anytime, I very rarely go and buy alcohol because I have an older sister, I have older friends. I mean, and I just don't really drink as much as I used to.
You lucky bastard! I was the oldest of 6. I never had an older sibling.
I have one older sister and 2 younger ones, so I'm right there in the middle. But I also am just not a big drinker, so it's not really an issue for me. But anytime I have tried, like, people, especially with the mask on, people just don't even like ask. Like, I just started a new job doing security, and like, when I told my coworkers I was 18, they were like, no, like, you're not funny. Like, we know you're like 25. I was like, no, I'm definitely 18. Like, I promise you. So
dude, I had a friend like that in high school. He could buy cigarettes without ID from age 15.
I used to
Thank you, Ben, for my nicotine addiction.
Yeah, I don't really buy alcohol that much. Not that I buy cigarettes that much, but I buy a pack probably once every 2 months, and I'll just use it very sparingly. If I walk in with a cigarette in my ear, they'll sell me. Like, they'll just sell it. They'll just be like, okay, he looks 25. He has a cigarette in his ear. He probably is okay.
I mean,
well, yeah, my girlfriend's the same way. She doesn't smoke cigarettes, but like once every 3 months, she'll get really drunk, and as soon as she gets really drunk, she's like, "I gotta go buy cigarettes. I need cigarettes tonight," and like she'll chain smoke the entire time she's drunk. Yep. And then the next morning there will be a pack with like 10 cigarettes in it, and she'll be like, "Oh my god, I have a headache. I don't want any more of these. You can have them."
Dan, you're a bad influence. You got me drunk at 7:30. I got work at midnight, dude.
Oh shit, man! I got an online game at 9 o'clock. Why are you drinking now?
I don't know. I was just tempted by your offer. I was like, I'll have a beer, and then we do poker night. Billy came. It was an interesting time. It was a good time for the most part. It ended a little odd. We don't have to talk about that, though. But
what's the minimum and what's the payout? That's what all the poker players want to know.
The buy-in is $20, and usually there are about 2 or 3 kids that are kind of like gambling addicts. So they usually lose all their money, then buy in $20 more or $40 more. So, but I never let anyone, unless it's from winnings on the table, I never let someone buy in more than 20 at a time so they don't get an advantage. I'd also like to say, we play Texas Hold'em, and I've never lost money once. I've only gained money. I'm just a star like that. I always
suck. I suck at poker. I love to play, but I suck at it.
In fact, I'll say I've been unemployed for the past few months, and there were many times where I didn't even have $20. But since I'm game master, nobody really tested me. And at the end of the night, I would end up having more money, and I'd be like, "Thank God," because if I lost my money, someone was gonna be $20 short. But the point of telling the story about poker night is when everybody came over and my ex-girlfriend came over and one of my buddy's girlfriends came over, and they mixed Arizona with a full handle of iced tea, and it tastes like pure iced tea. So last night I used it to get hammered, and once again I'm using it to get hammered because it is amazing. It literally just tastes like Arizona. It's awesome.
Dude, I was at a wedding this past weekend, and like my poison is the Long Island iced tea. Because I don't know what it is, but you mix like 5 different kinds of booze, and somehow the alcohol flavor disappears. Yep. And the wedding bar knew that too, and they did not serve Long Islands. But they were a fully funded bar.
Oh, nice. Open bar. I like it.
No, dude, it was ridiculous because it was. Oh my god! Now I'm gonna die for telling this story. I'm gonna be murdered. It was my girlfriend's sister's wedding. I think Billy's crashing.
Yeah, we'll call this episode sometime soon. We're about an hour and 30 in. I had no topics today. I had like 2 topics today, and I was like, shit. I really hope I don't have to like carry the episode. And luckily I haven't. We're actually an hour and 30 in. So
we've had a good time. Can I tell you about the wedding?
Please
or,
do.
Or should we wrap up?
No,
I
no,
I
please
want
do.
to keep your listeners.
Yeah.
So this wedding was interesting because like I love my girlfriend's family. They're all wonderful people, but like because we live out of state and everything like that, we just don't see each other as often as we would like to. And she has social anxiety and she worries about our pets. So like the last few years, it's been me going out of state to visit my family and her staying around to take care of the animals, which is fine. Whatever. I get to see my family, but she hasn't seen her sisters in less time than I've seen them. So we go to this wedding and oh my God, my girlfriend got shit-faced. She hits the bar. Like by the time I am ready to consider my second drink, she's on her 4th, and I'm running them, getting them for her. And by the end of the night, like literally, I am holding her upright while having a conversation with her mom, telling her what a great time we've had. And I'm like, don't fall down, babe. It was bad. It was bad, but she had fun. That's what matters.
My ex-girlfriend definitely used to get white girl wasted. She wouldn't drink much, but when she did.
I like that phrase. White girl wasted. I like that.
You know what I'll say, Dan?
Is that a Gen Z phrase, or am I just out of the loop?
I think you might just be out of the loop. I think that's definitely more of an early 2000s phrase.
My grandma uses that.
Okay, I gotta catch up then.
Billy's grandma uses it.
Yeah,
wow.
She'd be like, I got white girl wasted. She'll call me and be like, I'm white girl wasted right now. I'm like, I can tell. I can fucking tell.
Dan, what I'll say.
WGL.
What I'll say, not to get too preachy, because we've had plenty of that this episode, is social anxiety is often, I'd like to say, misremedied. A lot of people learn they have anxiety or believe they have anxiety, and they say, I have anxiety, it's not a big deal, I'll just choose to stay inside more, that's just who I am as a person. I would highly suggest that you encourage her and almost force her to go out and be more social. For example, when I first met my ex-girlfriend, she's a very anxious person in general. When we would get to a restaurant, she would have me order for her. What I would do is I would just say no. And I also wouldn't let her not eat. So she would have to order for herself. Nowadays, that chick, she's the one who calls for delivery. So we've made a lot of progress. I think we've come to an age of overdiagnosing in general.
Yes.
It's very hard. But when someone tells me they have anxiety needs to be looked at more like being overweight, kind of. It's something that is hard to work on. It's something that certain people will never fix. But for the most part, if you're overweight and you really want to be skinny and you work on it hard, you can do it. And anxiety is the same way, in my opinion. Yes, there are exceptions. There are people who have thyroid issues and all that, and you're never going to be skinny no matter how hard you try, and it's awful. But 90% of people, if you force them into those situations and you force them to become more social, they will become more social. Because it's basically just means that as a child, they had a lack of interaction with people. And so it's something you have to learn, just like anything else. Talking to other people is a complex thing. You have to learn boundaries. You have to learn to read a room. You have to learn to read body language. No, see, Billy, it's not hard for me or you because we've been doing it our whole life and we're both very social people.
I'm disagreeing with the boundaries.
I was a theater kid, but at the same time, I'm understanding, like, last week I recorded my first Patreon special. And my Patreon specials are videos, which is, like, not my thing. Like, I'm a former rock guy. Like, I know audio. You can tell your listeners my podcast sounds great.
It does. It sounds very good.
But,
go check it out on the Patreon. Patreon.com/The Salad Tossers.
And subscribe to the Salad Tossers Patreon while you're at it.
Yeah,
it's $1 a month, you cheap motherfucker. But No, like I'm an audio guy, but like video is challenging. Like I'm looking at my picture in the preview window right now. I'm like, oh, my eyes look saggy. Oh, the lighting could be better. And I'm like, oh,
You're a plenty handsome
chill
young
out.
man.
You've been an audio dude for frickin' like since early high school. Of course, you know how to sound good. Like learning video is an entirely different skill that's going to take some time.
But the benefit of it is people really like to be able to latch onto a face as much as a voice.
Yes.
A face is always changing, though. You're always doing something in a video.
We have a big problem in our generation of being connected to people in social media and thinking of them as our friends, and that's a bad thing. But from a creator standpoint, it makes it very easy to help yourself grow by making yourself appear as a friend and someone. Now, we're lucky. We're pretty small. Anyone who contacts us at jockandthenipple@AOL.com, we will respond to. But like there are bigger guys who you have no chance of being friends with, but people get this psychological. It happens in TV too. You actually get a psychological connection to these people in TV, and your brain doesn't understand what TV is, even though you might comprehend it. So you can actually go into a depressive bout because something bad happens in the TV show, and you feel for them as if they were your real life friend, and you can feel the same loss and everything. So. You have to be very careful with that. But at the same time, from the creator standpoint, you can, I don't want to say abuse that, but you can feed into that by showing things like your face and becoming more and more of another person rather than a creator or a celebrity to them.
But also, like, showing your face is more of a stimulation than just having a voice.
True.
It's like, we're always on our phones. We want to be stimulated all the time. We're watching TV while we're on our phones. We're fucking watching Netflix while we're fucking people, like stimulation. So having that face along with a voice offers more stimulation for people to get engaged into.
I completely agree.
I agree with that. That's to your point about the simulated connection. Like I feel like that's another thing that's really not new. Like it goes back to like the earliest celebrities in the days of radio and stuff. Like people see a face on a screen, they identify with that person, and they fantasize about that, and then you got the people who think, some girl thinks Johnny Depp's her boyfriend.
Next thing you know, you're writing a furry fanfic about fucking Bill Cosby. I don't know who you'd write one about, but
oh God, Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby fanfic.
I went to a bar and Bill Cosby slipped something in my drink. I noticed, but I didn't stop him.
He handed me the beer. Then everything went blank. ...
It was a good night. Yeah, man. The fucking internet is. The internet is such a great thing. You have all of the knowledge of the entire history of the world in your pocket, but at the same time, it is so extremely evil, and not just in its content, but in what it can make you feel and how it can make you think, and all the shit that we've talked about this episode. And that's why the internet is extremely complex, and it's extremely hard to decide whether it's a net positive or a net negative. I would argue, I think we've talked about this in a previous episode, the greatest creation of all time, I think Billy or Jock said a wheel. I would say it's the internet. It is the most powerful resource we have ever created in all time. I'm interested to think what you think is the best creation of all time as a history guy.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, the internet,
electricity.
Let me take you on a time machine
That's
trip.
a good one, Bill.
Because this is electricity. There you go. Right, it enables phones and TV and everything else.
Right now.
Let me think about this as someone, because like when I was a little kid, right? When I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and we were talking about this when we were talking about the other podcast you did where they were talking about that one survey dividing the generations at 1985. And I said I thought that was actually really smart because of how you grew up. But like, if you grew up just a couple years older than me, let's say you were born in 1990, you grew up where everybody had the internet, right? Certainly by the time you were like 5 years old enough to really remember stuff, everybody at least had dial-up.
Yeah.
And like, I think that shapes how people think of stuff. Like when you look at people who are older millennials, myself, and I always say older millennials because I think millennial is a stupid distinction. It's like people born between 1980 and 2000.
Yeah. It's a
Well,
pretty big
okay,
gap.
right? And because so much change happened during that time.
Dan, you'll think it's crazy to even hear this. My sister was born. My two younger sisters were born in 2007 and 2011, respectively, and I was born in 2002. I would argue that, 2005 and 2009. Yeah, no, those are the right years. I got them all messed up. My sister. Was
so they were both born in the smartphone era, though.
Exactly, and that's where I was getting to. Is that especially my baby sister was born in 2009. Was born always. The internet was not just a thing. The internet was the thing. Everyone she knew was always on the internet. I mean, I never got a smartphone until I was, I want to say 15 or 16, right after my grandfather passed.
You lucky bastard!
I kind of stole his. It was still laying around in my house, and I kind of decided this is mine now. Because like my older sister, for example, got a flip phone before she was allowed to have a smartphone. But like my baby sister, when she was 8, 9, she had an iPad, dude. That is fucking insane. And my parents are very traditional. So the fact that my parents let that happen, I can't imagine what that means happened in progressive households.
Dude, that resonates so much. You want to hear something wild? My dad is in tech. I should say was.
Yeah, so
he's retired now. But like, he came up in IT in the 80s. He got an executive position. He did very well for himself. We all, like me and my 5 younger siblings, all grew up with the latest tech.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, like my first memories of sitting down and using a computer in the early 90s, we had Windows 3.1.
Jeez.
No internet. My parents had dial-up internet before that. It was pay per page. We got dial-up again later before getting cable. And internet meant like you wait 1 or 2 minutes to read a news story that was, an hour earlier than you could get it on your local cable news. You could post on early social media, which was like a text post, and you could have like your favorite song playing in the background. Like super basic. And like that was a privilege too. Like to go online meant, right? Not everybody has cell phones. Like that means like nobody else in the house can use the phone while you're checking your email. So everybody else is like, okay, come on, hurry up. Are you done with your email? I got to use the phone. Like totally different attitude towards technology. Like it was available, but you didn't count on it. At least, especially not as a kid, like when mom and dad rule the phone line and everything. Like,
I can agree, even though it was probably close to 20 or 30 years after what you're saying. I remember using the landline to call my buddies to do homework over the phone because I didn't have any other. I mean, we had a computer, but other than like Skype, I didn't really have any other means of communicating with them. And I don't know, it's just crazy to me. I can remember being 11, 12, 13, like even 14, 15, and my mom saying, you have had 2 hours on the game. That's way too long. You got to go outside. My baby sister, man, she lives on her iPad. Kid's 11 years old, and she lives on her. She has an iPhone 11 or 12, the newest fucking iPhone. And like I said, my parents are very traditional. I assume it's because they had 4 kids, so they just eventually got numb to it. So I can't imagine what it's like in progressive households where people are so pro tech and all. Because, like I said, my dad worked in tech too. My dad worked for Verizon, AT&T. He was top 0.01% in AT&T at a certain point. So my dad was always tech forward, but he always knew it was an unhealthy thing to get a kid onto that very early. So I don't know, man. This new generation, that's why I'm saying I'm part of Gen Z. I don't feel like I'm part of Gen Z. That feels like a whole different
you're like
generation.
19-year-olds are like this new generation.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like my little sisters they're only 3 or 7 years younger than me, the two of them, and they literally feel like they had completely different childhoods. I remember me and my older sister, we used to pretend to be spies so we couldn't get through the day. We used to do a million chores. We used to play a bunch of absolutely absurd games just to make it through the day because we had no other content. But my little sisters always had YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, all that shit.
Pornhub, bro. Oh my god.
I don't think
you
my
know what I want to
sisters
know?
watch porn.
No. Listen to this. Shouldn't be saying this. But my mom caught my brother like a couple months ago watching Pornhub. The kid's in
How
7th grade.
How old's your brother again?
He's 13 years old, bro.
I was
What
watching
the
porn at 13. I was watching porn at 13. I didn't get caught at 13, but I was definitely watching porn at 13.
You horny motherfuckers.
The difference is when I was 13, watching porn meant waiting 5 minutes to view like a page with 5 low-res images.
Yeah.
Now it's like,
Where you may or may not be able to actually distinguish a vagina.
Now it's Cat Girl gets railed by BBC, you know, like right in front page.
In 4K.
Yeah, in 4K.
Yeah, live 4K. Oh my god.
At the end of it, fucking whatever you want to see. So,
dude, we let my brother live with us briefly, and like he's my little brother, and I mean, Jesus Christ, we're all sexual creatures, but I remember turning on the Xbox. And he had been watching Brazzers in the browser on the Xbox.
Jesus.
It takes bad.
I was just checking a walkthrough.
It takes 90 years to type that shit in. Oh my god.
You know, I actually kind of admired that. I'm like, that dude was horny, and he
porn
went
on the
through all
TV,
the effort.
Porn on the TV hits different, bro. You watching porn on a 60-inch screen? That shit hits different.
Dude, I got a 40-inch monitor right in front of me for my gaming computer.
Yep, me too.
I'm all
I'm
down.
plugged into a TV right now because my monitor's all messed up.
I'm a mobile porn watcher. I have never watched porn on my computer.
For the most part, even though I live completely alone, I still watch porn mobily because I like to lay in the bed while I do it.
There's something about it.
Yeah. I was gonna say some out of pocket.
I'll shut up now.
I was gonna say some out of pocket shit, and I was like, I'm not that drunk. I'm not trying to. I need to be a little bit drunker to say it.
All right, I'll go grab another beer for you, Bill.
Sadly, I'm out of beers right now, and I gotta drive in 2 hours. So.
Wait, is that a lighter? Is that some weed there in front of you?
Oh no, I wish. I fucking wish.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't hit that. You'll get like this video knocked off YouTube.
Yeah, I think honestly, if saying some racial slurs didn't get us kicked off of YouTube, I think that nothing will.
Billy, do you care if we tell that story properly?
I probably do, because like even telling it is a little incriminating. Okay. So maybe after the show.
I'll tell you later.
My advice is, as someone who's out of college, is err on the side of not telling.
Yeah,
you never know.
Wow, I hope I'm sober by the time it's time for work.
Jesus, I hope so, man. Too.
You got 4 hours if you stop drinking at 8.
I gotta leave at 11.
You got 3 hours if you stop drinking at 8, so just stop drinking at 8.
Do you have coffee close to hand?
I don't drink coffee, actually. I've never really been a coffee guy.
Really?
Yeah, I just don't like the taste. I don't find it interesting.
See, that is my like number one vice. Like,
well, you know what I'll say?
I literally switched down to zero nicotine vape because I'm just like I started smoking cigarettes at 13, but like.
Jeez. You know
now
what I'll
I'm
say,
34. Dan? I'm down to zero, Nick. I'm working on ditching it all together. But my number one vice. I can't do without coffee.
I'll say I have two tricks, and one I don't really use anymore. But when I lived at home, my dad is a big soda drinker, but all he drinks, I don't know if you're familiar, is Pepsi Max. The Max stands for max caffeine. So that's all. I would just
Yikes.
like I'm a bigger guy, so I'm really kind of I guess you could say my addiction is to sugar and stuff. I have a real sweet tooth, so I was really big into that. So that was kind of my caffeine. As I've gotten older, or as I've moved out, I should say, I stopped buying soda because I don't want that to be some of my calorie intake. But the biggest thing that gets me through the day is just pure pain. To be completely honest,
I hear you.
The reason I start work at midnight is because I usually can't get to bed until 6 to 8 a.m. anyway. So I decided, why don't I go to work at midnight and monetize this time that I'm awake that I shouldn't be awake? So it actually works perfect for me. I work 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. I get home by 8:30. I crash. I wake up around 3, 4, 5, and then I dick around until I got to go back to work. So it's a pretty sweet system.
Now you work security, you said?
Yeah, I work security at a hospital. It's a
Right
very,
on.
It's a
Dude,
very
I live
small
across the street from a
hospital.
hospital. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
This hospital, you've never seen anything like it. It's a very small hospital, literally in the middle of the woods, in Connecticut. It's a lot of the people who work there like to say there are more deer in the area than people. It's that small. It is a very small place.
Dude, that's freaking awesome, though. That's a sweet gig.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
And you work on your schedule. Like, that's something I like about freelancing. Because,
Well, yeah,
I used to be, when I was at Home Depot, I was a supervisor. Like, I was trying to work my way up there. And, like, the scheduling was just screwy. Like, I'm an early morning guy. Like, you're a late night guy. By 11 at night, I'm ready to fall asleep.
Wow. Yeah.
And I've always, like, even when I was in college, I was that way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just an early morning guy. I'm up at 5, 6 in the morning.
My
so,
mom
like,
used to literally have to shake me out of bed to get me to go to school because I couldn't, like, I just couldn't wake up. I'm not a morning person.
no,
Yeah, I mean,
my girlfriend's the same way. Like, she can't get up unless she has to get up for work. She's in bed till 11 in the morning.
I literally, I used to work at a bank and I didn't even have to be in till 10, and I got fired for being late too often. So, yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's pretty bad. I have really bad insomnia.
Unless I have class or work, like I'll go to bed at like 12, but once I have class or work, I'm not waking up until 2 or 3. It's just I'll sleep for 13, 14 hours a day if I could.
No, I get, dude, like, even if I'm dead drunk, like, if I am dead drunk, I will still wake up 4 hours later ready to go. And
Wow,
like,
that's
it's
sweet.
a nice thing. Like, sometimes, like, hey, I got shit to do. It sucks when it's Sunday morning and it's 5 o'clock and you're like, hey, I could really go back to sleep for 4 hours and nobody else would care.
Yeah. It's a healthy habit to be in, though. Well, I guess maybe not 4 hours is not the best, but to wake up early is definitely a healthy habit to be in.
A lot of that, I mean, for me, it's always been a thing, but a lot of that, like, if you look at the research, it's all age related. Little kids get up early, you become a teenager, you get up late, and then you slowly get up earlier again throughout
I don't
your
know.
life. Like,
I don't think I will. I think I genuinely have insomnia because my dad has it, and so, like, my dad, for example, even though he doesn't do it anymore, he works from home mostly, but he used to have to leave at 6 a.m. to go to New York City, and my dad would go to bed at 4 a.m. and then wake up and go to the city. Nowadays, since my dad works from home, he stays up till probably about 5, 6 a.m. in his office watching YouTube, playing Battlefield and stuff, and then he'll hit the sack, and he's not up till at least 12 before he starts working. So, yeah,
Well,
I think it's hereditary.
do you, let me ask you, my dad was an executive and he did the same thing, but, like, he didn't have trouble falling asleep. He could fall asleep on a dime for the first time. He woke up easily. And once you woke him up, he was awake. So, like, he couldn't go to sleep with my mom.
Yeah,
Because, like, he'd go to bed and he'd be asleep, and then she'd come to bed and wake him up. He's up all night. So,
Yeah,
like, he's got his own room.
I have that issue, but I don't think my dad does, because my dad, for example, they have a TV in their room and a cable box and everything, and he makes my mom turn the cable box off because when it's on, it has like this tiny little blue light, and that'll keep him awake, even if his eyes are closed. So I think my dad just has an issue falling asleep. I have an issue falling asleep at the right hours, but once I'm asleep, I am a rock, dude. I swear to God, you could drop a nuke and I would not wake up. It's bad.
Oh, I'm the same way. I don't know what it is. My alarm. I hear the alarm. I'm up. But
I don't. That's the thing. I've been setting alarms for years. I just don't even hear them. My parents used to get pissed at me, say, "Why do you ignore your alarms?" I just don't even hear them. My parents, in fact, when I was younger, used to say,
"Bear with me. My girlfriend is getting home. I am attempting to."
My parents used to say that I would wake up and have full conversations with them, and then I would go back to bed, and I would be like, I don't remember this conversation. I never had that with you. So yeah, it's pretty fucking crazy. Sleep is a pretty odd thing.
Yeah, and I don't think it works the same for everybody either. Exactly. Like you're saying, like having trouble falling asleep is like a whole world away from having trouble staying asleep.
Yeah. Sleep has always been an issue for me, indeed, in some capacity.
Well, it's been almost 2 hours. Jesus.
I know. Yeah. I really want to break the 2 hour mark, though. We're 5 minutes away. Can we get a topic?
Dude, we can break.
I just want to break 2 hours.
I gotta go soon.
Yeah, so we never heard about
what?
Like the full history of this sword. Like we heard like the
well, he doesn't know
the beginnings of the story, and like we went off on this huge tangent about like millennials and Gen Z and work, and like it was all awesome. But
I don't know the full history. I mean, I could probably ask my grandmother, but I doubt she would know.
I have a homeless story if you guys want to hear that.
I have a story about how my grandfather died, actually.
Go for it.
Let me tell you this. So, okay, short story, sort of. He had lung cancer, right? So he was in Vietnam, and he worked for Central Hudson, which is
it's an electric company. And cable,
right?
Internet, they do all that shit.
So back in the day, in Vietnam, they used Agent Orange to take down all the trees, so there'd be no jungle warfare, shit like that, right? Because it wasn't conventional warfare, so they used Agent Orange to kill all the bush around, right? They used Agent Orange to clear bushes away from, or trees away from power lines. And every time they did this on his job, he had a booklet, and he wrote it down, right? Coincidentally, he died from lung cancer, which may have or may have not been caused by this frequent Agent Orange exposure and use. Except when my grandmother went to look for the booklet, my grandfather actually ended up throwing it away like a year before he died of lung cancer.
Interesting.
And I just think about all the money that we could have gotten because they used that shit, and he threw out the book. That's like a couple $1 million right there. That
dude
got completely thrown away because he's like, I'm never gonna need this. Why would I die of lung cancer? Joke's on you, old man.
Dude, my family didn't lose any money, but I have a similar story. I can relate. My grandfather was in World War II. He was a driver for a general. And at one point, the Germans attacked them when they were in France, and he like jumped over a hedgerow wall and pushed the general over ahead of him and got shot twice in his ass and won a handful of medals. He got some, I don't know, Bronze Star with a clover leaf. I don't know because the medals were discarded.
Why?
He was a really, really politically active dude, and he was a lifelong Democrat. And when Reagan got elected for the second time, he threw all his medals in the trash.
Wow. That's crazy.
I can't even place a dollar amount on what I would give to have those medals now.
Yeah, that's insane.
Oh, dude.
Jesus. It's kind of interesting. I mean, my other completely sort of unrelated, but my other grandfather, he was Nick, you would know where this is. He was a coach for FDR.
Yeah.
FDR football team.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Not the
Park.
president. It's a high school.
High school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not quite as cool, but cool.
Cool. And my mom was 16, my uncle was 14 at the time, and he'd smoke cigarettes. I mean, funny because they both died to sort of related issues. It was heart disease that killed him, but he had a heart attack while coaching a football game. Dropped down right on the sideline of this football game. They had a concession stand named after him for a while, and they took it down. Nobody remembers the old dude, but I mean,
yeah, it was a shame when they took that down for sure.
Dude.
Yeah, real fucking bummer. All right,
Wow.
all
in the
right.
past.
To
I'm
end
happy
on
to
a
share my
sad note.
I'm happy to share my sob stories with y'all.
Does anybody have a joke to end the episode with?
All right, here I got one.
It's like,
I got one.
and then everybody died at the end.
Dan, have you heard about the new German microwaves?
I have not.
They seat 12. All right, thank you, Dan, for coming on.
Hey, I got one. Hang on,
Go ahead.
let me get one. So this penguin took his car to a mechanic, right? And the mechanic, he scans it, he looks at it, and he's like, "You blew a seal." And the penguin's like, "You don't have to bring my sexual preference into this one."
I like that one. I don't know where Jock went. Jock left probably close to an hour ago. He said he was going to leave for a few minutes to make a phone call, and he did that and came back. Then at a certain point, he left.
He had to get dinner, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Well,
Dan,
tell them to come around when we play our history game.
Oh, for sure. Dan, thank you for coming on. Shout out all your stuff before I start shouting out our stuff.
Yeah, DanTolerPodcast.com. That's Dan, Toler, podcast.com. You can find all my stuff. I talk mostly about history, usually a little bit more in depth than most people.
What's your
podcast
Patreon
name
link?
Patreon.com/Dan Toler Podcast. That's Dan, Toler Podcast. And relevant history on all platforms. Take it away, Nick.
I would like to just start by saying I never listened to Dan's podcast before he came on, and then I started listening to it, and I binged through the whole thing. It is very fucking good. The episodes are like 2.5 hour long, and you never feel like, oh, is this almost over? The whole time, like he finally ends it, and you're like, no, it's over. So I would highly suggest at least checking out his non-Patreon content, but I would also suggest throwing on the Patreon content. And if you are interested, and since you're listening at the 2 hour mark, you most likely are, patreon.com/thesaladtossers. It's $1 a month. You get me, Billy, and Jock make commentary for a movie each month, which, speaking of, Billy, I think we've skipped a month or two now, so we definitely have to watch a movie soon.
Yeah.
Second of all, we have Montel does his Debate Power Hour, which is getting better each episode. He is very good at taking criticism. He comes to me every month and asks for notes, and we sit together for close to an hour or two just talking about how he can make the show better. So I would highly suggest checking out his show. And the first drop of Dan Toler's podcast, Irrelevant History, on our Patreon just dropped on the 1st. It was about 25 minutes, I want to say, Dan. Am I right? About 25.
Yeah, 26, yeah.
It was extremely interesting. I've never heard anything like that. It is about the Olympic marathon for men in 1904. Highly suggest listening to it. Honestly, it is worth subscribing to the Patreon just for that. It was a very fucking interesting, and clearly since Dan's on here now, you know that we are going to have a promising future of Dan continuing to make us a few more episodes at the very least. So again,
Patreon.com, my man.
Patreon.com/thesaladtossers, $1 a month. Subscribe to our YouTube so you can see our beautiful faces. Check us out on Spotify. And Billy had a question.
Not a question, just a quick shout out.
Go for it.
The Caves and Clip update is coming out on June 8th for Minecraft. So if any of you guys are interested in that, just go and play it. Just a quick reminder.
I'm glad you reminded. I cannot wait for it. Comes out this month, right?
It comes out on the 8th, so 4 days.
Holy shit, Billy! Me and you and Jock have to find a server and we can all play on it, bro.
I'm down.
Yeah. So keep in mind, Caves and Cliffs update. Email us any questions, suggestions, or hate comments at jockandthenipple@aol.com. Yes, we still have the old email, even though we changed the name. And have a fucking great day, man. Have a day out there, kid.
Peace out, Craig.
Have a day.
Peace out, Craig.
Adios.